Hi, welcome to our webinar. My name is Nicole Matthews, and I'll be available to assist today with most technical issues that may arise. If you experience a technical problem, please either send me a message through the Q&A box located at the bottom right-hand side of your monitor, or you can email me at nmatthews, matthews@same.org. Lastly, you can call WebEx directly at 1-866-779-3239. Additionally, today we'll be taking questions through the Q&A box. Please send your questions to all panelists, and our moderator, Mary Matthews, will then at the end of the presentation read them aloud for Colonel Raby. As I turn over the webinar now to Mary Matthews, please sit back and enjoy.
This webinar is being recorded, and the slides will be made available on the SAME Tampa Post website after this. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mary Matthews, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar. I'm a retired Air Force Civil Engineering officer currently serving as an Executive Director and Fellow of the Society of American Military Engineers Tampa Bay Post, and I'm employed as a Federal Agency Engagement Manager with Energy Systems Group, an energy services company. On behalf of the SAME Tampa Bay Post and SAME National Organization, I welcome you to the first of 3 webinars, today's being U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Mobile District Overview. These webinars are part of the educational component of our Tampa Bay Post Joint Training and Education Day, also known as JTED, which is Wednesday, March 1st. We understand many individuals in both the private and public sectors may not be able to travel to Tampa to attend our JTED event in person, so we hope these webinars prove useful to you. However, if you can make the trip to Tampa, we have a great program to include an icebreaker Tuesday evening, February 28th, at the Ulele Restaurant near downtown Tampa, with a full day of presentations, briefings, and roundtable sessions following on Wednesday, March 1st. So, now on to today's webinar, which will last about an hour with approximately 45 minutes of presentation and 15 minutes for questions and answers. If you want to ask a question, please type it in the Q&A area on your screen. We will answer all the questions at the conclusion of the presentation as time allows. Today, we are honored to have Lieutenant Colonel Landon M. Raby, Deputy Commander, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Mobile District. This is his second time supporting our post with the JTED webinar. Thank you, Colonel Raby. Lieutenant Colonel Raby became Deputy Commander of the Mobile District in September 2014. He grew up in St. Augustine, Florida. Lieutenant Colonel Raby's first tour after graduating from the Engineer Officer Basic Course was with the 40th Engineer Battalion, serving in Germany and Kosovo. Over the years, he's reported to and had tours at Wiesbaden, Germany, Afghanistan, Israel, Hawaii, and now he's in Mobile. Lieutenant Colonel Raby holds a Bachelor of Science from the University of Florida and a Master of Science from the University of Colorado. His military awards include the Bronze Star Medal, 1 Oak Leaf Cluster, Meritorious Service Medal, 2 Oak Leaf Clusters, Army Commendation Medal, 2 Oak Leaf Clusters, Army Achievement Medal, 1 Oak Leaf Cluster, National Defense Service Medal, Army Service Ribbon, Combat Action Badge, Master Parachutist Badge, always impressive to those of us in the Air Force, and Air Assault Badge, and Ranger Tab. Now, let's move on to the presentation. Remember, please enter your questions in the Q&A section online at any time, and we'll answer them at the end. Lieutenant Colonel Raby, you may now begin your presentation.
Well, thank you, and thank you for a warm welcome. Florida is always in my heart, as that's where I grew up, and I love to visit Tampa. I would have loved to have done this in person, travel arrangements just weren't possible. I really do have a huge heart for Florida and all the work that we have that's ongoing there. I'm very proud to be a part of the legacy of Mobile District and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. It's great to be in Mobile, but it's also great that we have a huge impact on various parts of the industries within Florida and the bases specifically on the MilCon side with our work there. I'm going to go into just a little bit of the history of our district and talk a little bit more in depth on the contracting side and what contracting opportunities exist. I don't have a whole lot of slides. I don't want to jumble up the briefing with that, but I do have the pertinent slides that a lot of you will be looking for that have our upcoming opportunities and what we see for the next FY for contracts. So just a little brief history of Mobile District. Right now we fluctuate around 1,100 civilians and around anywhere from between 10 and about 15 military. Spread throughout, I have a military officer in South America, a military officer in Central America, one in San Antonio, and we'll have one shortly here in Southcom down in Miami. We cover various states, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, and Mississippi for MilCon, along with Central and South America. We manage approximately a $1 billion program. That program is on the increase. Last year, we had estimated we'd be just under $1 billion, but we closed out at about $1.1 billion total, and that includes all civil works, MilCon, our regulatory budget, and such. We're also looking at an increase in the out years of about $100 million per year, so going out into 18, $1.2 billion, and 19, $1.3 billion. We really have a difficult time in determining what our overall budget is going to be because a vast majority of our budget is in one-year money, SRM type work that's like O&M for those of you that have been in for a while. That type of work really comes to us last minute at the end of the year, so it's really hard for us to project in out years on what that's going to look like. However, just based on past trends, current administration, and the current rumblings that we're getting from commands and what their budgets are looking for the upcoming year, that's what it looks for the overall program. We are a full-service district. We do cover MilCon, civil works. We also have an international and interagency support program. We also have an emergency management response to disasters mission. And we're also in charge of managing the water resources and infrastructure on the greater Alabama area, and then about half of Georgia and about half of Mississippi. We service many interagency partners, not just the Army and Air Force, although they are our primary customers. We service NASA, FBI, the VA. Those are our three big interagency partners. We also work with the Department of State, several other smaller organizations like USAID that operate outside the United States, and various other ones that I haven't mentioned here, but we just don't have time to go into all of those details. We have a civil works mission that includes the operation and maintenance of 6 major river systems. The major ones in our area that we cover are the Appalachia, Chattahoochee Flint River, and the Alabama Coosa-Tallapoosa River, the Black Warrior Tombigbee River. Those are the 3 main water systems. We also have some minor water systems that we manage, like the Gulf Intercoastal Waterway System throughout our AO, Pascagoula, and a couple other smaller ones that I can't even hardly pronounce. Throughout those, we manage about 2,200 miles of navigable waterways, 7 deep water harbors, 21 shallow draft ports, 67 flood control projects, and we also provide power through 8 hydropower facilities that are located on our 22 locks and dams. Various other management pieces to the regulatory side of the house. Not really conducive to this forum, but we do have a big and sometimes controversial role in the regulatory and permitting business, especially when it pertains to Section 10 waters or Section 404 waters. We provide project management, construction, and engineering services to the vast majority of Department of Defense military construction partners, and we provide engineering studies that are longer-term type of programs, and I'll discuss a little bit of that at the end with some of our major programs that are kind of going into fruition, just so everyone has some situational awareness on that. So let me just go ahead and jump to the next slide. Just our boundaries. I spoke about our civil works boundaries. A lot of people ask, where do you guys work in Mobile? We're one of 40-plus districts, but we're one of the mega districts. The states that you see on this slide, all except for Georgia, we conduct MILCON in. We do MILCON in South and Central America, not to include the Caribbean. We also have a worldwide MILCON program doing SRM for the MedCom arena, and those facilities can be pretty much anywhere in the world, and all that work is SRM renovation type work for medical facilities. For our civil works mission, you can see the blue boundary is the boundary that we kind of service with our civil works. I discussed the waterways and such. Those are delineated through our watersheds, which we cover. For our MILCON, I mentioned the bases that we or the states that we cover. Just real quick, some of the major bases. Primary customers currently right now in the arena of the recent past and the near future are tending toward Eglin and MacDill being 2 of our major areas of work. We have some work in Maxwell, a lot of work up in the Redstone area, and a little bit coming up in the Anniston Army Depot area. We do still do work on the NASA centers, Cape Canaveral and the Marshall Space Flight Center. Right now, I'm not projecting a lot in the future for that, but we still have a very positive relationship with them. We have a positive relationship with Stennis, and as work comes available, we'll be probably, or as funds come available, we'll be probably doing more and more work in their arena as well. We do work with some of our Navy partners on Pensacola NAS. A lot of the Navy work goes toward NAVFAC, as most of you know. However, we do support when requested to support them. Primarily our as I stated before, Air Force and Army are our primary customers, and we do a lot of work with them. And real quick, just while I'm on this slide, before I get into the general discussions of upcoming contracts, I'll just mention a few national programs that reside within Mobile District that not a lot of people know, but it's just good to know if you're in that arena. The Deep Draft Navigation Center of Expertise resides here. We basically do all the planning and major studies for all ports within the United States, everything from Alaska to Miami to, up in the Northeast, all those ports, when the LRRs or GRRs are required for them to determine what their authorized depths are or widths. We do that. Currently, we have a major study going on for Mobile Harbor, close to home for us. That harbor depth, we're looking into the feasibility of expanding the width to provide for 2 ships to pass side by side and to go to an authorized depth of 55 feet. And we're looking into the beneficial cost of that project. It's a major effort within our planning division to work and within our deep draft navigation. But anywhere in the United States, when we do that, it's a Mobile District that is conducting those studies on those ports. We also do the Real Estate Systems National Center. We basically hold the databases, so to speak, of all the land grants and leases that reside within the Department of Defense. We manage that here through a real estate program, and we also manage the a lot of the outgrants, and I'm sorry, not outgrants, the leases for any OCONUS leases that we have in the South and Central America area as well. We're also the leaders for dredge quality management, and really that's a system that tracks the amount and location that dredge material is removed and where it's deposited. And we have a computer GPS system that we install on vessels that are on our dredge contracts throughout the nation, and we manage that that program as well. That's a national program that oversees that, and as you would probably gather to realize that that's something that could be abused, but it's something that we track pretty closely and have pretty high tolerance levels on to track. Some of the other neat things that we do is subsurface exploration with using core drilling to determine sampling. We do a lot of that. We do corrosion control protection, and the cathodic protection studies are all done here in Mobile. All water and wastewater center of expertise designs are done here in Mobile for other USACE districts. We do all the we have a program that studies the coastlines of the United States and tracks the erosion and sedimentation deposits. That program is called the Joint Airborne LiDAR Bathymetry Center of Expertise, which is a mouthful, but what it comes down to is we use a LiDAR bathymetry system that's attached to an airplane that flies over the coastal lines, and as it goes through and scans those coastlines, we're able to match that data up to data of earlier passes, say from anywhere from 2 to 5 years to 10 years ago, and we're able to tell where sedimentation is occurring and where erosion is occurring, and we're able to do that. And we do that not only for the entire United States, but anywhere else the Department of Defense asks us to do that. So we have done some international shots on those. Really interesting system. Very heavy in the GIS arena. We also have a GIS team that works pretty hand in hand with them. Two other things, or a couple other things to mention. We do have the Readiness Support Center. We hold half of the deployable tactical operation systems, the big expanding vans that go to emergency operations that the Corps is called to. We manage about half the fleet for the entire Corps of Engineers. And we also have the Reachback Center, the USACE Reachback Center, so any U.S. Army engineer officer or NCO that calls the Corps of Engineers hotline for assistance anywhere in the world, doesn't matter if they're in Africa, Antarctica, you name the place they're in. If they're calling for an engineer for support, they'll call Mobile District, and then we will find the expert in whatever it is, anything from airfields to base camp construction to well drilling. We'll find the expert in that niche engineering section. We'll put that person to work, and we will usually get an answer back or a design back within 48 to 72 hours to that downrange soldier, engineer, officer who has the requirement that's driven. So very proud of that system. Have a great team that backs up a lot of our officers and NCOs downrange with the technical expertise that they need. So very proud of that. We're also proud of our FEST team, just recently redeployed from Iraq. They did 4 months down there doing base camp planning, and then also some planning for the base camp that's just outside of the Mosul Dam. Our team, basically the FEST team, is a small design branch. It's made up of 2 soldiers and approximately anywhere from 6 to 10 civilians. Right now we have approximately 7 civilians that are permanently on that team, and they've done a great job, and we're really proud of them as well. Okay, lastly, I'm just going to talk very briefly about our LATAM program. I spoke a little bit about our area that we cover, Central and South America. I will say we don't cover Mexico. That's covered by NORTHCOM and not SOUTHCOM. So SOUTHCOM covers pretty much from Guatemala south. But we do cover, so Central America, I have 1 officer that's located in Honduras, along with a pretty large contingent that's there, and they're located on the Sotocano Air Base, joint base with the U.S. and Hondurans. And then I have another officer that's located in Bogota, Colombia. That office is actually moving to Peru, to Lima, relatively shortly within the next year. And if that gives you any indication of where our South America work is moving, it's kind of moving out of the counter-drug trade mission and more into the support for the Peruvian mill-to-mill partnering. And so we're doing some work with them, and we're doing some work with the Navy down there. Navy's got an entomology lab that we just completed, and a few more jobs that are going to be going on there as well. Okay, so let me go on to the next slide. Okay, upcoming opportunities. And so I'm shifting gears outside of who we are as a Mobile district and just kind of what we kind of forecasting in the near term, short term. Right now on the first one that you see there, the AE surveying and mapping, we have a $45 million share capacity. We're still determining right now on what sources are going to be for that one. We don't know what the set-asides are, kind of pending the results of sources. Right now, they're currently in evaluation to determine what we're going to be looking at for set-asides with that one. For the next one, military design, you see that it's $49 million for FY17. As you can see, it's $30 million of that is unrestricted. However, $19 million of it is 8A set-asides, women-owned, small business, and service-disabled veterans set-aside. So a good chunk of that, a third of it set-asides. So that's definitely a good news story. The next one you see there is the military planning AMC. That's an environmental contract that's out there. It's $9 million unrestricted, $1 million small business set aside. That one's somewhat tentative. We're still kind of waiting to see what the customer's specific requirements are, and we're hoping to get this out the door FY17. It could slip to early FY18 though. Okay, moving on to the next slide. On construction, looking at the MedCom single-phase design build, service-disabled veteran. That one is a great one. The whole project is a set-aside $49 million for Western region. Now, I mentioned before, MedCom, we have a worldwide mission, so make sure that you're tracking on the region that it covers. This one covers the Western region. The next MATOC, very similar, coming up, $475 million unrestricted. That one's basically covers the entire United States. So, you know, be on the lookout for that one. It should be, if it's not already on the street, it should be on the street soon. Go and move on to the next slide. Okay, I'm moving on to the next slide. If you're following over the phone, looking at right now, military construction contract. It says North and South Region Mobile District. So this is a MATOC that we're looking at for unrestricted. You'll see that the one below it is very similar, same region. So we basically split up the unrestricted from the small business set aside. Each one of those will be a separate contract. So there's actually 4 contracts on those first 2. Okay, so the first one you see there, that's unrestricted. There's a north and a south for the regions. That's unrestricted, and the same thing for the small business. There's $200 million for a north and a south, and that's combined. So 245 combined, $200 million combined. The next one you see there, MILCON. Those are our SATOCs that we're looking at specific areas or bases. So you can see North Alabama, we've moved that to an 8A as a set aside. For South Alabama, that's a service disabled vet. And then for Gulf Coast, you got an 8A. And then for South Florida, you got women owned. So that's 4 separate contracts. And you can see when the steps are. So you got step 1 in the second quarter, and then we'll hit step 2 of the contracts in the contracting phases for a combined total $46 million. And then the last one you see there is the VA bed tower. Well, right now, phase 1 is closed. It's 100, you know, it has 100+ million. Right now, we know it's approximately 140 million design build. Phase 1 is just closed. It's under evaluation right now. Phase 2 is a down select, so you know, phase 1 applicants will be in the pool for what we're looking for phase 2. So that's a pretty large contract for us. Got a lot of visibility all the way to headquarters. It's got a lot of, I'm sure it's going to have a lot of public affairs associated with it, just because of all the VA things that have happened in the past with their hospitals. So we have a lot of scrutiny from our headquarters on this project. Got a lot of effort from a good team, so we'll see. I do want to mention real quick for the area office one that was just above the VA. I'm sorry to go back on you. That one, just to give you a heads up, those the predecessing contracts that these are replacing for the SATOC. These are all we're all nearly used to capacity as it stands right now. So whoever gets the work for this, more than likely these SATOCs will be executed. That's the same thing for the 2 above it, for the 2 MATOCs that are above it, and the 2 MATOCs. I do want to mention the second one down for the small business. If you're competing for that MATOC, just understand it's, you know, 200 million is not what you're signing up for. You'd be signing up for, you know, if you're competing for the South and the North, probably roughly 100 million for each one. And we're looking at project sizes of roughly 20 million. That's what we're kind of gauging before we move it to an unrestricted MATOC. So if that's kind of deterring you from competing, do understand that that's, you know, for multiple task orders. Okay. Let's go on to the next slide here. Last slide for construction opportunities. Really, very similar to the MilCon contracts. These are, this is kind of the first one that you see there is a Redstone Arsenal in Erdic. Very similar. Those are both going to go 8A. Erdic and Redstone both wanted their own capacity to fulfill it's really going to be a lot of small SRM work. Reason why I say that is because the DPW has got a smaller, a little bit less capacity in those two areas, and both of those customers wanted that flexibility for SATOC in their AO. So that's $46 million each, not $46 million combined. So two contracts, $46 million each. Both are SATOCs. One's Erdic, one's Redstone. So yeah, be looking out for those. You can see the steps on there. Step 1, second quarter. Step 2, third quarter. Last two have to do with the Navy and their medical research unit. So both of those will be in Peru. As you can see, we got a lot of work in Peru that we kind of see coming up. Both are in the kind of the SRM world. One's for minor repairs of a specific building, and one's just in general. One's a SATOC, and one's going to be a C contract. Both are unrestricted. Those will be coming up. As you can see, one's in 17 and one's in 18. Like I said, we're moving our officer to Peru. And we're anticipating other work there as well. I don't have anything specific, but I'll just leave it at that. Before I go on to the next slide, just for situational awareness, we're using for MISSIP. So I'm going to kind of shift gears, and I know that we've talked a lot of MilCon construction opportunities. I don't know how many of you guys out there have dredge contract type of work out there. However, I just want to, for your situational awareness, since you're on the call, we do have a lot of barrier island work coming up ahead in the next 2 to 5 years, really. MISSIP is a program that stands for the Mississippi Coastal Improvement Program. And what it is the barrier islands that were wiped out during Katrina. We're looking at rebuilding them. We've already awarded phase 1 contract for Ship Island at $88.8 million. Phase 2, we'll award that December of 17. That's going to be a contract from between $50 to $100 million. Phase 3, another $50 to $100 million in August of 18. Phase 4, $5 to $10 million August of 18, and Phase 5, $10 to $20 million in October of 18. And then we have Cat Island, which will award this spring $15 to $30 million for rebuilding that island. There's also several capability pre-construction engineering designs. These are feasibility studies that are going to be hitting between $3 million. There's a few for $3 million, a few smaller ones for under $1 million. And then we have 4 major construction projects that are going to be for a total of about $77 million and $75 million, respectively, for FY19 and 20. So a lot of work in rebuilding those 4 barrier islands. 2 major ones are Ship and Cat. Those are the ones we're attacking now. So if you do know of anyone that's in that arena, please make sure that they're aware of this upcoming work. Or if you are, please take a look and see, or contact me, and I can give you more information on that. Really, that's about it that I have for upcoming work. I'm going to go to the next slide here. Linda Spadero is my small business person that works here. She's the program manager for that within Mobile District, and she's done just an outstanding job. fighting for small businesses to get set-asides on various contracts, and then getting that message out to the vast majority of the workforce. If you have any questions, you can always contact her. She'll help you. If you don't understand the process of how to look for opportunities on FedBizOps, or you can't find an opportunity that you think is out there, you can always feel free to contact her, and she'll help you as best as possible. And I'm going to go on to the next slide, but we'll be prepared for Q&A. I think there's a couple questions that are already teed up. But yes, okay, so on to the next slide. At that time, this pretty much concludes the formal portion of this, and I'm free for questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Raby, for that excellent overview and great information, and for reminding all of us what a great friend to our post Linda Spadaro has been, especially to our small business members. So let's begin our Q&A session. I'm going to start because you expressed your love for Florida, and we're here in Florida. My question to you is, in Florida in particular, what is keeping you up at night at the Mobile District these days?
That's a great question. So I'm looking here on what's coming up. For one is, what's keeping me up at night is, we have a new administration. Everyone knows we have a new administration. Looking very positive on infrastructure construction. When it comes to rebuilding, I mean, we have a couple waterways that have locks that are down for maintenance, requiring several $1 million to get them back into an operational state. I think that's going to be very feasible. When it comes to looking at what our outlook is for MilCon and, both Army and Air Force bases, you're going to have the haves and the have-nots. And it's really going to be who's the loudest voice. And I do think that Florida has a huge advantage in the sense that they have, you got several MACOMs that reside in your footprint, which is very good. I will say, I think that the F-35 is probably, it's one of those ones that's kind of, out there as a hanging chad, so to speak, on what the administration is going to go with that. That being said, I think that we're, when it comes to the facility side of some of the stuff that's been programmed, I think we're kind of almost like beyond the point of no return with those. So, I mean, from that standpoint, I think it's good. We're projecting for MilCon very positively in the next few years. We've stepped up. We're stepping up probably somewhere between 50 to 100 million this year, this FY projected, and then probably an additional, 50 million for the next FY. Civil Works, likewise, we're projected to go up by about 100 million this year from last year, and probably even more next year. We're still waiting to see what those programmed amounts are. Interagency, we're looking to step up almost $150 million this year. With major, VA bed tower, that was a big one, because that one hasn't fully awarded, so that's a big portion of that. But still, our work is very positive in that regard, and we still don't know what's going to come at the end of the year with SRM. The one thing that's really keeping me up at night right now is being able to execute the contracts on a hiring freeze. And we're working through those right now, those issues. We're still sitting, fairly well. We haven't lost that many folks to attrition. But that's one of the things is, if someone walks right now, for me to replace them is pretty difficult. So
I can imagine. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier I work for an energy company, so I'm going to bring up the energy question that appears in the Q&A. So the Army has been very aggressive in looking at ways to reduce installation energy consumption through a wide variety of approaches, including utility privatization, pursuit of renewable energy, performance contracting, and seeking ways to provide an energy-resilient warfighting platform. How do these efforts impact the types and scopes of contracts you are issuing, if at all, say, for example, on your 100-bed facility for the Haley Medical Center?
Okay, great question. Okay, so this is like, you know, one of the things that I love. I'm a lead AP credentialed engineer, so I've gone through that. I went through actually a pretty extensive program to get the credentials, and if anyone's lead accredited, they know that the pain that's involved in getting that. So I will say that, you know, it is something that's kind of near and dear to my heart, but I will also caveat by saying that, you know, as a Corps of Engineers district, we are a requirements-driven organization when it comes to MilCon. So really, it's how important is it to the customer, and if it's important, you know, they're going to have funding that's you know, attributed to that. So, for example, if you're going to get a LEED silver building, or if you want to put smart technology in a building, I mean, that can run you anywhere from, you know, 10% additional cost to what the building, the actual cost of the building, if you weren't to put those changes into it. But I guess the answer to your question would be, it's really what the customer wants. If it's important to the customer, it's going to be important to us. And when I say customer, I'm talking about the military proponent that has control of the funds that have been appropriated.
Makes sense. Thank you. Okay. Have you, a follow-on to that, have you heard that there's maybe a shift from LEED to another program? I think it's called the Green Building Initiative.
I have. So there's lots of initiatives out there. The lead one has been ones that we've been able to kind of, you know, attack, because it's something that went from something that's kind of like wishy-washy or kind of nebulous to something that's quantifiable, which is something that, you know, as an analytical engineer, I love that it's quantifiable. But at the same time, I'm sure that there are other initiatives that are out there. And again, you know, if the customer comes back and says, hey, this is what we want, then that's the way we're gonna go. And we, you know, if it's a green building initiative, we're gonna jump on it that way. If they wanted some type of LEED credentialing, then we'll do that. So I do know that there are other initiatives out there for, like, I do know that Fort Campbell has got a huge solar program. They're doing all kinds of smart building technologies and such like that, but they have some different funding stream that's really pushing that, and I'm not sure if that's coming from MCOM or where it's coming from, but I do know that, you know, if the base comes on board and says, hey, we want to do this, then, you know, we're by all means going to jump on it.
All right. We had Fort Campbell come and speak at a J10 a couple of years ago, or actually it was our regional conference, and they were doing all kinds of exciting things. Okay, you've told us about two big problems. One is you get a ton of SRM money, which doesn't seem like a problem on the surface, but it comes near the end of the year. And the other problem is you have a hiring freeze and a reduced manpower situation. So with that, those two problems lying on your desk, what have you done? What adjustments have you made, and can you make any adjustments so that you can execute your programs accordingly and in a timely way to spend that money?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, because it kind of dovetails into the original question I saw that someone put up here. It says, you know, the budget late in the fiscal year makes it hard to execute. What adjustments have you made? Very similar. So, well, if you notice on the slides that I had that were up there, mostly what you see up there are SATOCs and MATOCs. Huge win for us is being able to push through some of these major multiple award task ordering contracts and single award task order contracts, because number one, for small business, I mean, really, that's the boon for being able to get in on one of those MATOCs or SATOCs. And it helps us with delineating our set-asides ahead of time and being able to address that. And it also gives us the flexibility to take capacity out of existing MATOCs or SATOCs and using that at the end of the year by awarding it as a task order, not as a full C contract. Now, that said, the difficulty that we have is that the way the FAR is written right now, consolidating MATOCs requires us to lock down specific locations. Now, at first it was as specific as, you know, a grid location, which we were like, you can't do that. And then they said, hey, you can only do a MATOC or SATOC for a specific base, not for multiple bases. And then we were able to get them to relax that a little more until we could go to regions. So now you see them as our North Alabama MATOC or South Alabama MATOC. And like for ERDIC and for Redstone, you have the SATOCs that are out there. So we're able to kind of, you know, be a little more general in what the location is. Now, you know, Congress is not always very happy about that, but that does give us the flexibility to take that money last minute, award it as a task order, and helps us with our small business numbers, which we have some pretty high goals. Right now our goal for, you know, if you consolidate all of our small business goals into one big lump sum, it's like 40%. Which, you know, honestly, I think that's unattainable with the amount of very large MILCON that we have out there. But it's a great target to shoot for because it really helps us, you know, stay focused on the mission of trying to help out as many of the set-asides as we can.
That's fantastic. I don't know if you have more to say on this, but a final question has appeared about your manpower situation. What options is the Corps considering for bridging the gap during the hiring freeze?
Ooh, yeah, super good. You know, that's something that on a daily basis we have a conversation about. And when I say daily basis, sometimes it's hourly. It's something that's at the forefront of our minds at the executive level, not so much at the, you know, folks that are at the engineer level that are actually performing the work and all that. But definitely at the executive level and at the higher headquarters at the MSC level, hiring freeze and being able to shift focus. So ways that we've looked at doing that is being able to and be transparent to any of the contractors or contracting officers or any of the folks that are on the outside or outside of the district. It'd be kind of transparent to them, but what we've looked at doing is looking regionally, if we have to, for either capacity when it comes to, you know, contracting officers or such, or you know, where we're kind of hamstrung right now is we're not allowed to contract that portion out. We can contract services out, but we can't contract out the oversight of services. So there's a piece to that that does kind of hamstring us. So to answer your question succinctly, right now we're kind of not in the dark, but we're kind of in the gray. We're still kind of delineating. We're waiting on OPM guidance. We're expecting to be getting, you know, OPM's given some guidance, but that guidance isn't 100% on what they want. So once we get that OPM guidance and it funnels down to us, we should have a much cleaner line, so to speak, of what we can and can't do. That being said, though, we're such a big organization, we are able to flex internally a lot, even between districts and farm out work between districts. That's pretty transparent to anybody on the outside, either customer or the contractor that's generally doing the work. So. Okay,
I'm going to throw one more question at you and let someone else type one up while we're talking. I'm now going to reveal myself as not an environmentally knowledgeable person, but that's okay. You're rebuilding barrier islands. I'm going to assume they were wiped out by a hurricane. I'm going to assume the barrier islands would help protect the coastline from erosion, and maybe that's the point of the project. But I want to ask, is it natural when a hurricane takes out a barrier island for man to go back in and replace it? What's the correct environmental flow of things?
You're trying to get me in trouble.
Am I?
No, hey, I'm kidding. So yeah, that's a really good question. So we sat down and looked very hard at this. The Mississippi dollars that came from, a lot of this money came from the BP oil spill. Katrina wiped out some of the barrier islands, and what we've seen is you know, tremendous damage along. I'm sorry, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so we've seen tremendous damage along the coastline of Mississippi, and to natural habitats and such. And there was, you know, there was some on the side saying, hey, look, you know, we should just let it be what let it be. However, taking a look at some of our past projects and the successes we've had in rebuilding ecosystem, it's the same as if, you know, let's say you took a bulldozer and, you know, built a Walmart in a wetlands, and then the Walmart disintegrated and, you know, it's just a big pile of rubble. We're going back and kind of restoring it back to what it was before. Now, we did a considerable amount of study on this, about 8 years worth of study before we're even getting to the execution portion. So we've done this all in conjunction with NEPA. We've done it in conjunction with the EPA, Fish and Wildlife, and National Parks. The National Parks actually had a piece to it. And, you know, this is a program we're very confident of, and we're very, you know, confident of the engineering and all the studies that went into it to determine, you know, was it best to either leave it as is or to fix it. So.
Well, thank you for handling that political football so well. We here are very protective of our coastlines in Florida, so I'm glad to hear that. One other question has come in. Are there any web-based resources other than FedBizOps that you recommend for researching MILCON and SRM opportunities?
Ooh.
And other than calling Linda Spadaro.
Yeah, you know, that's a really good question. I'll say this. Right now, the Corps of Engineers, just like any government agency, is probably 10 years behind the times when it comes to being able to highlight the opportunities that are out there and such. That's no excuse. I will say that right now, even the commander has got a, he is pushing for us to go to an app-based resource that would include opportunities. Now, there's a lot of hurdles in that because with FedBizOps, it's not, you're going outside of the core entity. You're actually going outside of that. So we're working toward a solution that we can get app-based. We're just not there yet. But I will say, like I said, the commander, that's one of his big pet projects is to get the Mobile district into this millennial and get to where you can pull up an app and you can do anything from check what the water levels are at Lake Lanier. You can go to another app that would show you what job opportunities are at the Mobile district. You go to one app that says, you know, what contract opportunities are out there for small businesses and or, you know, unrestricted and or whatever. So we're, you know, there are initiatives in that direction. Right now, I would say the best thing is to get, you know, as it stands currently, to get well-versed in how FedBizOps works and how you can search within it. Well, and the other thing is to partner with, if you're a small business, partner with somebody else who has done it on say a project and get in on the ground level and kind of learn how the whole process works through a partnership like that. And that's where SAME and JTED are so good at being able to bring together folks that frankly we need to execute our mission. So
our wrap up, I was going to say that's why we appreciate people like you who spend time with us to go through the upcoming opportunities and save us a lot of work in researching them and leave us these nice set of slides that will help all the business development people in our post figure out what they're going to do next. So I thank you very, very much. A warm thank you to you and to all of our attendees for the time today. We're wrapping up. I don't have any questions that we've overlooked, but I would like to bring your attention to future JTED activities, which are posted on the screen. Webinar 2, the Corps of Engineers Jacksonville update, and that'll be Wednesday, the 22nd of February at 1 p.m. Webinar 3, NAVFAC Southeast, Tuesday, February 28th, and I see it's also at 1 o'clock. The icebreaker not to be missed if you're in town the evening of Tuesday, February 28th. Ulili is a well-known, very popular, very cool restaurant in Tampa, followed by JTED on Wednesday, March 1st at McDill. So on behalf of the Society of American Military Engineers, Tampa Bay Post, and our regional and national organizations, we appreciate everyone's participation today and hope this webinar has been useful and informative. We remember that we did record the webinar, but more conveniently, the slides will be made available on our Tampa Post website. This concludes today's webinar. Unless anyone has anything to add, and I don't think they will, you may now disconnect and have a wonderful afternoon. Thanks, everyone.